All right, so what I want to do in this section is to continue to talk about the conditional statements in JavaScript. We already learned about the if statement and the else statement and how we could use these guys to control the flow of the program. So what I'm going to do here is just quickly recap that, and then I'll talk about the else if statement and how you can use that to expand your options. So let's say we did something like const, I'll do first name as a variable, and then I'll do something like John. And then I'm going to do const score. So this could be like a score on a test that you just took. And then I'm going to set up a simple little if statement. So let's say, for example, we want to see if we pass the test or we fail the test. So it's an either or situation. So I'm going to do if the score is, let's say, greater than or equal to 60. Okay. Well, in this case, we passed. So I'm going to console.log that this guy here, which in this case is me, it's John. So I'm going to use the first name variable. Okay, notice how I use backtick so I can incorporate that. So this guy has passed the test. Okay, and now down here, I'm going to set up my else. So this is going to be the situation where I failed the test. So console.log, and again, I'm using some backticks. I'm going to go first name has failed the test. Okay, so let's think about what's going to happen. We have this score variable, and right now the value that's stored there is going to be 71. So when we get to the if statement, the condition here says, is the score, which is 71, greater than or equal to 60? Well, yes, it is. So this is true. So that means this code block is going to run, and this code block inside of the else statement is not going to run. It's going to be skipped. So if we pop open the terminal and we run this, we get John has passed the test. Okay. Now, if you drop the score to something that's going to be less than 60, let's say you pick 59, for example, well, then if you go ahead and run this, you're going to get John has failed the test. So at this point, you should understand how to use the if and the else statements. But let's introduce something else, the else if statement. Let's suppose that we wanted to also know the letter grade that's associated with our test score. So in most places, if you get between a 90 and 100, you get an A. If you get between an 80 and an 89, you get a B, so on and so forth. So let's say that we come up here. I'm just going to delete this really quickly, okay? And I'm going to start up here. I'm going to ask the question, is the score greater than or equal to 90? Well, I know that he passed the test, right? Because you pass the test if it's greater than or equal to a 60 in this case. So what I'm going to do, on top of saying that John has passed the test, I'll go first name, that variable has received a letter grade of A. Okay, so this would tell me that John has passed the test. John has received a letter grade of A. Okay, so now let's say we wanted to check if the person got a B. So a B would be between 80 and 89. So now what I want to do is put else and then if, and then I want to put another condition here. So I need parentheses again, and I'm just going to check to see if the score is greater than or equal to 80. Okay, so let's go ahead and just copy this. So I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm just going to paste this in so I don't have to keep typing. And then I'm going to change this from A to B. Okay, and later on, we'll see how to really make this short by using a function. For right now, we haven't gotten to that yet, so we just have to copy and paste stuff. Okay. So if we think about what's going to happen here, when JavaScript reads this guys from top to bottom, so first it's going to check to see if the score is greater than or equal to 90. If it is, it's going to run this code block, okay, right here, and then it's going to stop. It's going to skip the else if, it's going to skip any else statement that you have, all that stuff's going to get skipped, okay? So if this is not true, meaning it's false, then it goes here and says, well, is the score greater than or equal to 80? So if I got something like an 85, well, then this code block's going to run, okay, and everything else is going to get skipped. So in this case, it would say John has passed the test. John has received a letter grade of B, okay? And we can do another one. So let's do else if, and now I'll do score is greater than or equal to 70 in this case, okay? So let's go ahead and paste this back in. And now you still passed, so I'm going to give you a C now. And let's do one more. So else if, and I'm going to do score is greater than or equal to 60. Okay, so this is the last case where you can pass. So I'll go ahead and paste this in, and I'll change this to a D now. Okay, so that's the last case where you pass. And then since we only have one more case here, I'm going to go else. I don't need to specify anything else because if the score is 59 or lower, they've failed and they've gotten an F. Okay, so all I need is an else there. I don't need to put a condition in. So I'm just going to paste this, and I'm going to change it, and I'm going to change passed into failed, okay? And I'm going to change the letter grade to F. So this would say that John has failed the test. John has received a letter grade of F, okay? So if we go back up here, we see that the score is 59. So right now, this else statement should get triggered. So let's go ahead and pop open the terminal. Let's clear this and let's run this. And we get John has failed the test. John has received a letter grade of F. Let's close this and let's go back up and play around with this. Let's say that we change this to something like 74, for example. Well, again, if we're executing this from top to bottom, first it's going to check to see if the score is greater than or equal to 90. No. Is it greater than or equal to 80? No. Is it greater than or equal to 70? Yes. So John has passed the test. John has received a letter grade of C. Again, everything else is going to get skipped. So if we run it now, let's go ahead and clear this and run this. We get John has passed the test. John has received a letter grade of C. All right, as another example, suppose we issue a greeting to our user based on the time of day. So what I'm going to do first is just get the time based on the hour, okay? And this is built into JavaScript. You can go new and then date with a capital D. And then what I'm going to do is use parentheses and then dot get hours, okay? And then parentheses again. So make sure you type this exactly as I'm typing it here. Otherwise, this will not be correct. So you want to go console.log, and I want to type the hour variable in here. Let's just pop open the terminal and see what we get. So I get 18 because where I am right now, it's 6:30 p.m. Okay. Now you're just getting the hour part. So you just get the 6 part and it's in military time. So you have to add 12 in this case because you're past 12 o'clock, right? So 6 plus 12 is 18. So that's where that 18 comes from. So let's do a little if statement here and think about if the hour, let's say, is less than 4. So this would cover the case where it's midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., or 3 a.m. So all the way up till 3:59. Again, you're just getting the hour. So if it was 3:59, JavaScript is just going to tell you 3. Okay. So what I want to do here is just console.log a little greeting saying go to bed, right? It's time for you to go to bed. And then the next thing I'd want to check, I would do else if here, and I would do is the hour less than, let's say something like 11. Okay. So up to the point where it's 10:59, we would say it's pretty much good morning, right? So we will say console.log and we'll say good morning. And let me go ahead and put an exclamation point there. And then the next one I would do, let's say else if, we'll say the hour is less than, let's go ahead and say up to the point where it's about 4. Okay. So let's say less than 5. We'll say this is the afternoon. So here we'll say console.log. And we'll go good afternoon, okay? And then let's say we get into the evening. So now we'll do else if. We'll say the hour is less than, oh, and I made a mistake here. So instead of putting 5 here, it should be a military time. So you should add 5 to 12. So this should be actually 17, okay? So if we come back here, now I want to think about good evening. So let's say this is some time that's between 5 and let's say 9. Right? So this is, if I think about 9 o'clock or even go to 10, you add 12 to that, that's 22. Okay. So in this case, I want to go console.log, and we'll say good evening. Okay. And then lastly, I want to have an else. So this is the situation where if I'm running the else, that means I've gone through all of these and it didn't work, right? So it's not less than 4, not less than 11, not less than 17, not less than 22. Now what we're saying is that basically you're between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. So from 10 p.m. all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Okay, this is that situation. And I'll just say good night. So console.log, and I'll say good night. Okay. And I want you to think carefully about how this is written. So let's say we had something like 10 o'clock. Okay, so 10 o'clock. Is 10 less than 4? No. Then so it skips this completely. When it gets here, it says, is 10 less than 11? Yes, so you get good morning and everything else is skipped, okay? So if you write it in this manner to where you start with checking to see if it's less than 4, then you check to see if it's less than 11, then you check to see if it's less than 17, then you check to see if it's less than 22, and then if all those have failed, you have your else that catches the rest, okay? So right now, since the time for me, it's going to be 18 in terms of the hour, so I would fall into this category where it says good evening, right? Because if I think about, is 18 less than 17? No, right? So it goes here, is 18 less than 22? Yes, so I get good evening. So if I pop open the terminal and clear this, and then run this, I get good evening, okay? And now we can play around with this. We can, let's say, comment this out. And let's go over here and put something like 3, okay, for 3 in the morning. So if we clear this and run this, we get go to bed. If we change this to, let's say 7, okay, so now it's not less than 4, but it is going to be less than 11. So we should get good morning. So let's clear this and run this. We get good morning. And let's say we do something like 15. Okay, if you subtract off 12 from that, that's going to be 3, so 3 p.m. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear this and run this. We get good afternoon. And we already saw good evening. Let's see good night. So let's say that it was 23, okay, for 11 p.m. basically. So let's go ahead and clear this and run this, and we get good night.